All right, let's talk about radio right now. Adult radio. If you're too young or easily offended, please turn the radio off. And this broadcast is protected under Section 2 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and using media described under International Fair Usage Copyright Law. So you're going to have to deal with that, you lawyers, because you can bite me. This is our banking show. Right now, bankers should feel that chill going up their spine. Because today we're going to talk about finances and banking. This is our David versus Goliath show. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed or like you can't fight the system, realize this: you can fight the system. And this is how it works. You are tuned in to CFTG Conscious Revolution Radio, Ultimate Rock Radio. The same attitude that you need for revolution.
Move yourself. You always live your life, never thinking of the future. Prove yourself. You are the move you make. Take your chances, win or lose.
Oh, welcome to the show right here, because we're going to jump in right away, okay? It is Adult Radio. It's for millennials, for center wing. We don't need a lot of stroking. What we need is the information, and we need to make it rock. Music right there, the remix from Yes. So we're going to start it off with using your intellect, because we rely on your information, your ability to use your brain. So it's called fiat currency, F-I-A-T currency. If you're not aware of the scam, central banks make money up from nothing. In the next hour, we're going to talk about David versus Goliath, kicking the crap out of the biggest guys on the block. This is CFTG. This is our banking show. Stay with us.
Walking to the sound of my favorite tune. Tomorrow never knows, but it doesn't know too soon. Need a little time to wait.
Oasis. Absolutely amazing sound. This is Stereo FM Radio, CFTG, The Conscious Revolution, just for you. The David and Goliath Show, the kicking the crap out of the big bully on the block show. For everybody who's ever been bullied, everybody who's put up with a toxic male or a toxic female, everybody who's been screwed over by the corporations, which would be absolutely everybody right now, is going to enjoy this show substantially. Today's show comes to you with extra pleasure. Yes, indeed. Before we were mocking and laughing. Before we were serious and pointing out science. But today is all about pleasure. It's about enjoying the revolution. It's about enjoying the David versus Goliath play that is coming out in front of us on mainstream, and they're desperate not to look. Don't look in that direction, they say. Don't look at the guy behind the curtain. So we're gonna open the curtain. We're gonna unzip the fly. We're gonna lift the skirt. We're gonna actually talk about how this country runs and the reason why it's fucked. Okay, this is why it's fucked. Is because central banks, the Central Bank of Canada, the Royal Bank, and anybody else who has advertising on mainstream news is fucking everybody. They made up a whole bunch of policies back in the 1700s. Okay, we have a medieval banking system, and they made up all of these rules, and they came up to the king, and they said, hey, we got all this money. And the king's like, yeah, shut up. I'm getting a blowjob, and I'm drinking some wine. This is true story, okay? I'm not just making this up. So he's like, no, don't pay attention to her or him or whatever it is at your waist. Just listen to me for a minute. I'm an accountant, and we've been studying this for a couple hundred years now. And the king's like, hey, man, I barely even know how to read. What are you talking about? We got all this money. You talk to me about the fucking money again, right? And the accountant goes, well, it just sits there. And so people wander around with these pieces of paper that represent how much money they got in there, and we keep track of that. And the king goes, you know what? You're really good at taking care of my money. And anytime I think there's something missing, you kill somebody. So, you get the money back. Doing a good job, banker. And the banker says to the king, he goes, if it's just sitting there, why don't we just lend it out? And then, the miller, he needs a new mill. So if we lend him the money to do that, it's not going to cost us anything. He can pay back some interest. He's going to get interest, so we're going to make huge money. But then he's going to have a mill, and then our fucking kingdom has this mill. Look at this. And the king's finally like, what? Wait a second. And he pushes the person away from his waist, and he puts down the glass of whatever alcohol he's drinking, and he goes, what do you mean? We lend it out, and then we get more powerful? And the guy goes, yeah. It's fucking cool. So they started this out in the 1400s, a central banking system where they lend out money. And a lot of bankers lost their heads. They don't talk about that one. And then, we got fucked because they started charging interest on stuff that they were making up from nowhere, from nothing. I'm going to talk about how that happened. But our entire banking system started out with some greedy royal people behind castle walls getting whispered to by accountants. It's called Fiat Currency Central Banking System. It's first-year economics. They make money up out of nothing. And then I'm going to explain how they convinced that king to make money up from nothing and then get their heads cut off. It's pretty cool. Well, that's the way they explained it to me when I was in school. They talked about, creepiness. You never thought you'd get an economic show like that. CFTG, I'm Darren Howard, the banking show. David versus Goliath, and we're winning. Aaron James right here.
See my brothers falling, I hear heaven calling. The devil won't let me be. Burning, but the world keeps turning. And when I die free. Lord have mercy. So rest in peace. Death grip on my soul. Chains won't let me go. Crucify my hope and watch me bleed. Lord have mercy. See my brothers falling. I hear heaven calling. The devil won't let me be. The flag is burning, but the world keeps turning. And when I die free. Lord have mercy on me. Blinded by all hate, twisted by all faith. Shoot, don't hesitate. Lord have mercy. Too many lines crossed. How many lives lost? The gun is cocked with the bullet in your name. See my brothers falling. I hear heaven calling. The devil won't let me be. Can't you see? The flag is burning, but the world keeps turning. And when I die free. Lord have mercy on me.
Right there, Aaron James, CFTG. Oh man, you know what? That is one of the things that it's interesting about rock and roll. Concepts of God. Okay, I'm gonna jump right in. Okay, and I quite honestly, 12 years of divinical church training. I got a few things that I can say about this. Okay, long hair tattoo wearing doesn't mean you lack intelligence. Okay. And when you see all of the monotheistic, the Abrahamic monotheism reflected in common rock and roll from, Ozzy Osbourne, oh yes, our Dark Lord and Master, to Aaron James, just released 2 years ago, I think it was, Lord have mercy. If you look at all the imagery that's in there, it's like God and, everything. Okay. And we've had that paradigm hanging around for so long that there is an invisible guy watching everything that you do. I love George Carlin in that one. There's an invisible guy watching everything that you do, and he's going to torture you for eternity, but he always needs money. And that's the truth. Okay. Now remember how our story started, right? It's with the king being a pig dog. Okay, he's not even a good dog. Okay, he's a pig dog. He's one of those guys who's snorting around in the sewage all the time. He treats everybody as if they should be at waist level, goblin and goblin. And he's saying they're going, what? I can make more money, while he's drunk assed and illiterate. That's the good old days. If you want to talk about the good old days for bankers and banking and David versus Goliath shit, that was going on, okay? All of the guys who worked in the castle knew that the royal dude was basically illiterate, backward-ass hedonist, and all you had to do is make sure that he had good waist-level action happening, and everything was fine. Okay, as soon as the waist level action stopped happening and it threatened his person, then shit broke out, and all of a sudden he started acting like a king. But that's what happened. There's the accountants, the guy taking care of the bank and the safe. He's one department. There's a church there, and if the church is happy, as in the king is building them churches, they say, hey, man, fucking God said this guy is cool. And he's standing in the church that the king built for him and eating the food that the king sends to him with some pocket cash and waist level action. And that's all provided by the king. So the priest who talks is the only guy talking to the peasants. Fucking says that king is condoned by God. It's so cool. And that's the king's court. So think about where banking came from, where these guys wearing suits and ties in Ottawa, where do they originate from? Where's their culture come from? And it comes from guys who, in the end, are willing to get right down on their knees with no pillow underneath them to save those poor little kneecaps. And man, that head is moving because that king's protecting them and putting them in charge of the shit going on. Probably didn't expect economics to start like that either, did ya? Well, let me tell you this. We could do this. Oh, yes, we can. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the king, swords, and that banker dude. But I want you to do your patriotic thing right now and stand up and stand tall and lift your hand. A salute to all those military forces that we are financing right now. Instead of children and families and seniors, instead of small business, we are financing hundreds of billions of dollars going to the Ukraine to fight the mighty Moscow menace. Yes, Putin must be destroyed, and that's more important than you starving to death. As a matter of fact, our mighty leaders, Justin Trudeau, have declared the Ukraine as the new Holy Land. Yes, this Holy Land must be protected from the Moscow menace, so we have to let our citizens starve to death and die. It makes you proud to be a Canadian. Clean drinking water, you don't need it. Yes, we pump raw sewage into the ocean. We don't need to clean that up. My point being, the banks finance that shit. This is the David versus Goliath show. I'm Darren Howard. Thanks for joining me in my version of FM Insanity.
There was a full moon over Memphis. National Guard outside. Thousands away for Elvis. Waiting ever since he died. For a miracle gonna happen. This eminence to restore. The sound of a thunder cracking. Signal the beginning of a war to end.
patriotic music meant to inspire you to send your money to the Ukraine. Ignore your neighbor starving. That's not important. Yes, tent poles for everybody. It's warfare. It's the way of life. It's a good thing. You know what? It just blows me away. The war hype that's going on. It's CFTG, David versus Goliath show. We're kicking the crap right now out of the bankers. And we're also enjoying the longest extra in rock and roll history. Prism, Armageddon, the song that gets cut off every time on mainstream news because they can't, or mainstream radio, because it's that hard to go through. If you ever wonder how I feel when I wake up in the morning, this is the moment. This is how I feel. Boom, I'm awake. This is Radio Free Canada. Hi there, I'm Darren Howard. This is the Pleasure Show. Okay. Mocking and mirthing, general 4-letter words on Monday this week. It was actually a lot of fun to get back on the air and just fucking around like a lot. And then getting, doing the corporate fucking sucking really bad show on Tuesday because that felt really good. We're just getting fucked in the grocery store and at the gas stations, and our rent is fucking stupid beyond belief. And there's a fiat currency connection there, boy, let me tell you. But honestly, we are so fucked right now, and yesterday was a serious show about being fucked by COVID and a lack of 8th grade science. It's a center wing thing, and we're still saying to people, look, jump into the conversation, let us know. But since I'm not promoting this yet, since I'm not promoting this little radio show right now, I'm not worried about comments and things like that because we're stepping into the streets, okay? Doing the same thing that we did for years and years. We got a really good group of people backing us up. People do likes and shares, which really helps out, and we're ready to go again. We did things all the way up until 2017, 2018. The last major event that we did underneath the Radio Free Canada POW banner was the Women's March for Washington. We did a co-hosted one downtown in Kelowna. And in Kelowna, we had 750 men, women, children, supporters of women and women's rights stand up against Trump and for our communities. Okay, to take care of and send a message to the toxic right-wing male problem. Women should not obey. We should not control them and what they do with their bodies. Okay, I'm a guy. I defend a woman and a woman's right to do what they want. Women are safe at Radio Free Canada. So are LGBTQ. But people who like their guns and pickup trucks are safe at CFTG too. Okay, everybody's going to try and get along, at least in one realm of fucking mainstream, and that's us. And at the center wing, we're going to try and get along and get these two groups together so they can respect each other and listen to each other's fucking arguments, okay? It's not about fucking hating everybody. www.positive-action.ca has got a really good lineup, and we really worked on this one. We've got over 1,400 hours working on the Municipal Sustainability Project. We've got plans, drawings, future positions that we're going with in January of 2023. That one is just all prelimed and ready to go. Homeschool Cool. That's something else at the positiveaction.ca website. Okay, we're doing Homeschool Cool, and it's a lot of fun. We're just starting that one up. We started up a Facebook group underneath that one. We're posting some of those notes at Positive Action U. I'm sorry, at Twitter. at Positive Action U. And we're getting those things out, just warming them up, getting ready for January of 2023. Because when you're doing a big project, you got to kind of take your time. And social media is getting shut down. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter are all turning into right-wing funnels, just promoting the capitalism and greed and hatred that is the good old days. So because that is happening, we've noticed an explosion in right-wing hate comments from Twitter when Elon Musk took over. Explosion. Factor of 10. Factor of 20. Okay, we've seen that the Facebook has been investigated for its algorithm that purposely funnels to right-wing and hate sites and promotes those 10 times more than positive posts. A positive post being, yes, we can stop the evil that's going on. So on Facebook right now, if you post and you say, yeah, we can stop the evil, just help each other, and, that is not promoted by the algorithm. But if you go on there and you say, well, I really hate Trudeau, oh, man, multiplied. That's the way they're using the machine against us, against common thinking people in the center wing who fucking say, look, it's kindergarten rules, kids. You stupid fucking guys on both sides who are bitching saying, you should hate that guy. Well, you should hate that guy. Fuck you both, okay? You shouldn't hate the other guy if you both want to be leaders or are leaders. You should be fucking listening to them. You should be saying, yeah, that what you're saying is right, but that what you're saying is wrong, and this is why. Not, that is wrong, I fucking hate you, why do people listen to you? That is not logic. That doesn't work in the bar. It doesn't work in the kitchen. It doesn't work in the restaurant. Okay, I'm a restaurant fucking manager. I know that if anybody stands up and says, listen to me, fuck you, that's it. The meeting's over, and whoever said, listen to me, fuck you, is gone. But that's Justin Trudeau, and that's Pierre Poilievre. Okay, right now in Canadian politics is just fucking let's not get along because we don't want to get along because if we hate each other, their emotions and their lower vibration levels take over, and they can't be dissuaded from that great granite wheel of their consciousness turning in the wrong direction because they're hardening their spirits to be assholes. And here's social media backing them up. Here's 100% more fucking reason to be an asshole. And that's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube is going in the same direction. Now we've got to reach out and we got to branch into Rumble. We have to go to TikTok. We have to go somewhere else because that's what happened to the mainstream financing of Twitter. And that's the connection. You want to talk about how evil things are. Take a look at the way Disney monopolized everything that's, remotely entertaining just by buying it, financed by banks. Elon Musk, financed by banks. He doesn't have all that much money. What he has is credit, so he bought up all that shit. Bill Gates doesn't have money, financed by banks, buys up all the farmland. Are you noticing a trend? It's like since the 1400s and then perfected in the 1700s, the accountant simply came up to the king and said, hey, we could do this. Sharper swords, better metal. We'll just finance that mine. More soldiers, better barracks, better training. We'll just finance this yard. And they kept saying it over and over again until we got the Pentagon. That's a true story. And this is your banking show. The reason why David beats Goliath is simple. At CFTG, we follow the art of war, and that says information wins the war. Be happy. Feel pleasure. We're going to overthrow the oligarchs.
Wake up to a new morning. Got my babe by my side. I won't yield to anyone, 'cause I got my peace of mind. Who could bring me heaven? Heaven's already here. lights my way. I don't need any changes to make me love today. Who could bring me heaven when heaven's already here? Who could bring me heaven when heaven's already here? Who could bring me heaven when heaven's already here? Who could bring me heaven when heaven's already here?
You know, that's one of the songs that the Collective Soul really got right. And when they're recording like that and they come out with stuff like that, you know that you got a band that's got a sound, right? That is called perfecting your craft. And, you know, before they even hit the studio, they had stuff like that down. There's also a reprise at the end of the other one, and I'm going to play that as a background music sometime. Let's see who can get that one. When I'm playing Collective Soul, doing the operatic thing. If you remember, most interestingly, Hotel California, another one of those expansive, excellent produced songs or albums, okay, where they bring in some outside influences. And then, what was the other one that we were talking about the other day? I can't remember what it was. Memory, time, short-term memory problems. Way too smoky in there to be remembering what I did this morning. At any rate, I'm Darren Howard. It's Radio Free Canada, FM radio, the way it was supposed to sound. Revolutionary. Taking things on. And today, spreading pleasure. In fact, even more important than that, I am suggesting that you personally get what pleasures you. Male, female, identifying as whatever the heck you want. CFTG does not care about your sexual orientations when we talk about pleasure. If you dress up like the Cookie Monster and your partner dresses up like the mailman who gets abducted by the Cookie Monster and flogged with wet noodles, that's your business. Carry on. But in reality, there's too much focus on the extremes of sexual pleasure without talking about the center of human pleasure, satisfaction, endorphins, all of those things that make you go, oh, yes. Those endorphins can come from a couple of very simple things. The endorphin that makes you go, way deeper than just sex. The endorphin that makes you go, yeah, is exercise and walking. Yeah, it's that simple. It's that simple. Walking, exercise, walking. Going outside, getting fresh air, socializing, talking to people. If you have a habit of walking for 20 minutes a day, at the 20th minute, your endorphins are in full fucking gear. Because most people don't walk for 20 minutes at a time. They'll walk for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. Time yourself. If you go to a shopping mall, I don't, but if you do, how long before you have to stop walking before you feel tired? Minutes, right? And then within a couple hours of stopping and starting, you're exhausted. You have to sit down. But after 20 minutes of walking, you're invigorated. Your body is pumping with oxygen. You are literally the top 1% of the planet after 1% of Western culture after 20 minutes of walking, because your endorphins are running at a normal rate for normal reasons. You can get those same endorphins buying one thing, and it does. That only lasts for about 20 minutes, and then it's done. The car gets scratched, the fabric gets a tear, that it gets gets some dirt on it, and then the endorphins go away. But the endorphins from exercising, I know personally, hang around all fucking day, and you feel really good, and you don't have an urge to buy anything. Have good sex. There you go. The step, exercise, first endorphin producer, good sex, not toxic sex. That's just selfish, me. Trust me, there's a real balance in there, okay, between expecting your partner to be your porn star or connecting and sharing, okay? And I mean, you can share all the porn fantasies you want. Go nuts. But that's sharing. It's not just, okay? You get me. There is a difference. What they mainstream, the accountant and the king, have always said is it should be toxic. I'm in control. Therefore, we have a Western stereotypical male-centered male cameraman for all porn. And that means your pleasure only comes from toxic, misogynistic manners. So then you're up on there, your ego or your id, your ego. No. Buying things and going on vacation to cater to your ego is temporary endorphins that don't work. Eating right, exercising, making sure you get rest, natural endorphins that don't promote consumer culture and are absolutely rejected in mainstream media. That's what I'm talking about, pleasure. When you have exercise, the sex is better. It doesn't make any difference if you're an accountant or whatever. Go out and do 20 minutes a day and then go and romp. Okay, do 20 minutes a day. Do this test for me. 20 minutes of just real fresh air exercise and practice smiling, okay, for 20 minutes a day for the next 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, get some, and it'll be better. If you're already exercising, adding the smiles and adding actual honest community building work to the exercise adds another level of endorphins that we naturally get, not in consumer culture, but when you bake something for somebody else and deliver it, when you make something for somebody else and deliver it, that's more natural endorphins that don't involve anything consumer. And that can literally change the world. So the banks could be microfinancing us, like they do the corporations, to create our own endorphins. See, there's always a connection. You're listening to The Revolution and CFTG.
Take a look at my girlfriend. She's the only one I got. Not much of a girlfriend, but never seemed to get a lot. Take a jumbo across the water, like to see America. See the girls in California. I'm hoping it's going to come true, but there's not a lot I can do.
once again focusing on the spectacular albums and promoted and or produced in such a spectacular way. Supertramp. And the Breakfast in America album is epic beyond belief. And they were like, time travelers because, actually the entire rock and roll industry saw what was going on nonstop ever since the beginning, right? Okay. The 1979, I am 13 years old. Okay. So those of you who are doing math right now, I'm trust me, you're not old when you're this old. But at any rate, beyond that point, in 1979, when a young radio budding guy watching WKRP in Cincinnati, you got to remember that one? When I was watching that, Pink Floyd came out with The Wall. And you want to talk about major influences? I'm in the middle of Baptist Central right-wing hell, and I get the album Pink Floyd, The Wall in my hands. Oh, man. Hey, speaking of that, I'm going to charge that up do we got time? I'm going to charge that up before the end of the hour. Maybe? Maybe not. Okay, because we're talking about David versus Goliath today. We're talking about pleasure. It's my favorite part. And we're talking about sending chills up the banker's spines because it is the pleasure of beating Goliath when you're David. And you don't even need a rock. I mean, you're not standing in the middle, the Philistines and, the Jews aren't facing off. There isn't a big war, atmosphere. People aren't looking for warriors to go and take on the Goliath because that's what happened, right? Okay. If you know the story, David versus Goliath, people know the analogy of a little guy kicking the crap out of a big guy. But really what happened was the big guy just strutted around, and there was no bullshit during wars back then. During the medieval Bronze Age and, biblical era, there was no BS. If you were going to go to war, 100 guys had to line up on either side, thousands of guys on either side, and all they had was sticks, stones, swords. The rich guys had swords, and, there was a lot of throwing of things. And the Goliath was this 8-foot tall, fucking huge dude. If you take a look at some of the common sizes for warriors back then that were recorded, they might have been inflated a bit, but maybe not. Because worldwide, when you take a look at some of the warriors that we're producing today, holy smokes, they're huge. This is Jason Momoa's bigger brother, okay? Those guys were promoted and brought right. So if you were one of those kids you were found when you were a child, brought right into local military, and then Goliath showed up. Jews one side, Philistines on the other side. Goliath steps out into the thing and goes, "Hey, motherfuckers, I'm going to kick your ass, everybody's ass, all over the place. Nobody's going to come and take me on. I'm huge." Couple guys go out, they try to take him on. Boom, they're down, baby. He's making mincemeat out of them. He's going all medieval ass on everybody that comes close. And he's still wandering around, and the Jews are kind of going, fucking, wow, look, we're screwed. Our banks didn't finance us enough. True story. So, what happened was, David gets his rock, a nice rounded pebble out of a pebble stone that aerodynamically would fly faster and harder, and bonks him in the head from a distance with his cruise missile. Sort of like what the Americans are supplying the Ukrainians right now. Just saying. So, while banks are financing only those weapons and letting the government pump raw sewage into the ocean by the tune of billions of gallons. Yeah, that's happening. You want to say that your money is going to a good place, that the banks are financing good places? They're only financing small rocks against big Goliaths. They're only financing the ability to pump raw sewage and raw chemicals into the ocean. You go swimming in the Kelowna Lake in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, you are insane, especially around the hospital where they dump where the outflow of sewage goes. There are neural disruptors and major chemicals from the hospital pumped into the Kelowna Lake every year. Did you know that? That's financed by the government. So they finance a few rocks to throw at a few Goliaths in their world, and they don't finance raw sewage being cleaned up? Look into it. look into how much raw sewage British Columbia pumps into its ocean. And you're going to get yourself a little bit of a shock, okay? Just letting you know. 1, 2, 3. Played this song yesterday with CFTG. This is Wolfgang Van Halen. Mammoth. Radio Free Canada. Why do the banks only fund fuck-ups? That's the question, and we're going to got the answer coming up after we all rock out in the studio. Turn it up, turn it loud, dance, feel good. Just feel good. music right there, the immortal sounds. Immortal, beginning of Immortal, that's for sure. A guy who stuck to his guns, even though the corporations and even the general public said, yeah, fuck. Wolfgang Van Halen, what kind of shoes to walk in there? You ever look at kids, teenagers, you know, people who are having a hard time? Okay. Let's look at anybody who's having a hard time right now in this capitalist fucking nightmare hell that we all live in. Okay? Most of it is because you're not taught to feel good about yourself because you're not a superstar who's getting blowjobs from fucking rock stars. Okay? You're not a billionaire who's, you know, walking down red carpets and then starring in your own self-porn. That's, oh, wow, that's what's something to aspire to? That's mainstream media? Porn and violence porn. Oh, is what you're supposed to aspire to. And no kidding, kids are fucked up. No kidding, kids are depressed. Look at the subject matter, okay? there's a very interesting book that I took during my little, studies, okay? Some of the post-G stuff I was doing. And it was social communication in advertising. And they wrote this really wonderful girl wrote this doctorate of PhD on the social communication, how we communicate in advertising. And it was really insightful. A lot of things that she had to say I'm sitting there going, holy crap. Everything from Lucille Ball, who are eating chocolates, all the way to, of course, silk stockings. Take a look at the way that corporations are communicating the way we're supposed to live our fucking lives. The leather jackets that the bikers wear are directly from World War II bombers, but promoted in the movies and then sold in the stores. If you see that chain happening all the time, that's the only thing that the no-minds in the banking industry can finance. What they think the stupid lemmings will buy next. That's their opinion, is that we're all fucking sheeple and that we will buy whatever. And because 25% of the population will blindly follow what is common group consciousness, what they perceive as common group consciousness, they say, well, we got control and we know how to influence things. Because these sheeple pay attention to us. 95% of the people aren't sheeple. Remember that 60% of the people who could vote don't, okay? They don't do real statistics. When you see 39 people going to vote, you don't hear about 32 million votes. You hear about 15 million. And just just add it up. And if I'm wrong, post it and send me an email. But you got to understand, they only focus on the sheeple, and they say the sheeple are normal because they consume, promote warfare, and allow people to go hungry, to go homeless. And they say, well, that empty house over there is benefiting, a landlord or an investor. So that person should go homeless and die in despair. Or that person should, live in depression because they pay attention to mainstream. What CFTG is about is giving a fuck about those people, the people who are depressed by the fucking system that we're offered. We were born here, and our only crime was being born. But we're held hostage by a system that's only financed for depression and consumerism. If go ahead, prove me wrong. It started in the church that convinced the king that all people suck. Only the people who go to church are cool, and then only the people who are really cool in church are really cool. That's true story. That's their culture. The culture at City Hall, the culture in the legislature, the culture in our federal government, the military and the police is all, everybody is a dangerous animal. Keep them entertained and semi-fed, and they'll fall in line. Prove me wrong. That culture's got to go. And it starts with the guys who are only financing failure. Fiat currency banks. When the central bank gets a headline or the Royal Bank buys some advertising time, I want you to remember that those banking executives make money up from nothing, and they're bankrupting the future, charging interest, or even holding people accountable. That's insane. A system developed in perfected in the 1700s has finally come to call. We're finally fucked for the entire future of the economic history because the interest rates have caught up to us. They've manufactured too much money, and they continuously support systems that are dysfunctional, like the institutions and the corporations. And it all ends up fucking us, either in high prices or absolute meltdowns of empty shelves in grocery stores. That's macroeconomics. They only finance stupid since the 1700s, and all of that debt has been made up from nothing. Great reset? Let me tell you about a great reset. We've got solutions coming up. For those people on the internet, thank you very much for hanging out and being a cool part of the solution. And for those of you who are sticking around for the next 7 minutes, who are in our Canadian audiences, thank you very much for hanging out. pleasure is an important thing in life. Start waking up in the morning going, fuck yeah, I'm me. Fuck all the shit until you get up out of bed. Just have 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes before you go to sleep saying, fuck yeah, I'm me. Fuck the rest until I get out of my goddamn bed. Don't set your alarm to hateful buzzing and sounds. Set it to something fucking cool, or just rely on yourself to wake up 2 minutes before it and your first words are, I am fucking awesome. Now I'm going to go and fix the not so awesome parts of myself and have some fucking fun doing it. Just saying. Don't be that rough on yourself. Just stick to the fuck yeah part, okay? I'm Darren Howard. Our solution to banking nightmare? Feel good about yourself. And stop supporting the consumerism that powers the banking hell. Okay, I'm going to put the tone arm on. Let's see if this works, okay? Hang on a second. This is CFTG. We'll see you tomorrow, okay? This one's going out to the banking industry on behalf of the revolution. Please continue being you. I'm Darren Howard. Friday, we're having some fun. We're going to dance. We're going to feel good about being human. And fuck the rest. It's fucking all Friday. It's tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out. All right. Let's get out and have good orgasms.
Load up on guns, bring your friends, fun to lose, to pretend she's overboard, self-assured, no, the dirty word. Hello.
Classic there. Nirvana, CFTG, The Revolution. Thanks for hanging around for overtime. This is the last few minutes of the show that we get. That's not on the internet, not duplicated and then shared on the internet for the hour slot thing, because we are fitting this into other people's broadcasts so that you can share and share alike. But, you know, we always run out of time. We never have time to talk about what's important, okay? And I forgot to put two and two together. Okay, on what happened, how the Viper got into the wall sort of thing. Okay, castle walls, kings, bankers, religions on the inside, us on the outside. And that's exactly what was going on all the way up until about the 1400s. And then the 1400s, a little bit of math came around. Two things occurred. Number one, counterfeiting. They would counterfeit their own gold coins. And then a lot of local people would notice, and they'd get in a whole bunch of trouble. They would also counterfeit for somebody else's currency, and they'd send, you know, lead currency, because there was so much lead around. Lead was a major thing back then. And so you would make lead, cover it, electroplate it in their way, and then flood the local kingdom, and it would screw their currency, okay? Wars would be started over it. You would only do this if you were capable of doing it. Basically, you were beating them financially before, because then you would pay their soldiers in your coin, which was worth something, and they would hijack entire armies that way. Look at the way China went, you know, during its medieval periods. A lot of that was going on. So they knew how to manipulate numbers. And they said, wow, you know, we can do this. But they also noticed something else. These accountants in these castles for these royal people noticed that the money stayed in the bank account and it just stayed down there. And people would get chits saying you have $500 in the bank. Okay. And you'd wander around with your checkbook, literally, and you could sell these things off and buy fucking shit. And that was the local economy. But they noticed it didn't move. Just sat there. Nobody invested in shit. And guys needed stuff. So what they would do is they would make money up from nothing. They would offer a chit that was worth this much in the bank. And they would say, well, this is worth $1 million, or this is worth whatever, and that improved that kingdom. Fast forward to absolute ape shit. 1700s, they start doing this. England, Germany, a couple other countries get on board with this, and they start multiplying their value. And because they're giving themselves more money, they start fighting amongst themselves. And then the banking cartels finance World War I and then World War II. They didn't accidentally come up with 100 submarines. Did you ever think they did? Like all of a sudden in 1932, they said, well, here's, you know, a shitload of this. You got to understand the way that things are being financed. You have to understand that ever since the beginning of royal time, somebody's been taking care of the money, and they've been fucking around. But now the math has caught up to everybody. They have derivatives. We have a derivative bubble. We have a real estate bubble. We have all of this poverty-creating bubbles that are not sustainable because of additional rules around money they make up from nothing. Checkbooks that they just hand out saying there's this much money there. That's called fractional reserve lending. You can look all this up. It's first-year economics, and it doesn't work. It can be reset. But the people who are running the show, those in government, unelected bureaucrats, and those in corporate banking, unelected bureaucrats, they have a culture that says you're outside of the walls, therefore you're screwed. And that's it. Sorry you were born. Sorry you were born in Canada. The banks have decided you're not a good investment, and you're going to have to starve to death without a house. We have a solution for that tomorrow, and it's called Me and You Talking About It, nonstop until enough people know. My unconditional love for you, the CFTG. It is fucking Friday, and let me tell you, we're up to shenanigans.